Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ophthalmology Business Podcast. We help you develop your ideal practice with the help of other doctors and experts. The topics we'll cover include marketing, management, leadership, recruitment, HR, mindsets, and more. Every listener on this podcast is welcome to join the Ophthalmology Business Academy. Go to www.obacademy.org. The membership's on us, and it's our gift to you. I'm Dr. Shakir, and I'm one of the co-hosts of this podcast. Today, I'm excited to talk to Dr. Elson Lai. He's a board-certified ophthalmologist, the founder of Rosemead Eye Center. He's also a founding principal of Independent Practice Partners. Our topic today is helping jumpstart solo eye docs and some other discussion points. So we'll jump in. Welcome, Dr. Lai.
Thank you, Omar, for inviting me on this podcast.
Of course. So one of the things I like to start with, just to give listeners a little feel for who you are, is give you the open floor to talk about you yourself, how you got into ophthalmology, how you got into your practice. Give me the background.
I graduated about 12 years ago from UT Southwestern in Dallas, and home is LA for me. And, I felt guilty staying in Texas, so I found a job in the LA area, and thought, that was the job that I wanted. But then 4 months into it, I decided it wasn't the job that I wanted. And so I was kind of in a pickle. I ended up finishing up my year commitment there and gave my notice and without another job, and ended up moving home. Who would have thought?
Wow. Where was that first job?
It was in Orange County. And so, once I realized I didn't want to be in that practice anymore, I moved home, and somebody decided or gave me a kind of a heads up saying that there was a Kaiser job looking for per diem doctors. And I ended up doing that for about 6 months while I, started planning to open up my own practice.
What got you into ophthalmology from the get-go?
I wanted to do urology for the longest time, and I did 2 weeks of a rotation and decided that wasn't what I wanted to do. And I kind of just accidentally walked into an, ophthalmology, OR room, and I saw, this big TV, people sitting at a microscope. I thought it was really cool. And, I never thought about it until I started doing the rotation, and then decided, hey, this is the field I wanted to go into.
Tell me about your practice. So what's how long has it been now? What's your practice like? What's your day-to-day? How's the growth been?
So I started about 10 years ago. I took a year off between my first job and starting my practice. Well, I shouldn't say a year off, but I was doing per diem work. I opened up May of 2014, and I saw 8 patients my first month. And I was like, this is not good. But I realized you can't just open and expect people to know who you are, and you opened. So I really did the groundwork. I mean, I went to so many PCPs. I went to the same PCPs week after week, basically almost to a point where I'm annoying them, and they're like, "You're back." And I say, "Well, if you don't want me back, send me patients." And they started sending me patients, and that was the first 6 months where was brutal. I'm not going to be, sugarcoating this, but it was brutal. I thought I made the wrong decision. I had all this equipment. I bought everything brand new. I wanted to make it look like a really nice office with brand new equipment. And, after 6 months, I think I saw 238 new patients. And
Wow.
I know these numbers because I could count them, and then I just boots on the ground type of approach. I kept doing the same thing until something clicked for some reason, and patients started coming. And by after the year, like month 18, that's when I realized, okay, I can do this.
What do you think that was? What do you think clicked? Was it word of mouth? Was it penetration into the community at large?
I think penetration in the community at large. I didn't know how to speak Mandarin. I'm in a very niche environment here. A lot of people speak, Mandarin, Vietnamese, Cantonese here. I started going to a lot of the hospitals to give eye talks, and the hospitals were told me that like these eye talks actually you filled up the room. I've never seen this room filled up, so a lot of people were interested in the eyeballs and what you had to say. And so I started doing a lot of community events, and then people started coming. And obviously in California, it's hard because there's a lot of HMOs, and it's hard to get into these contracts because of people not letting you in, right? They said their panel's full, and so I'm sure a lot of these listeners know that they tell you that we can't allow any more ophthalmologists onto the panel. Well, I kept trying. I just basically went out there and realized who the HMOs and the IPAs were owned by, and most of them are primary care doctors. And so I would go and talk to them and invite them over to my office and show them, hey, this is, I have a great clinic here. Here's my cell phone number. I take care of all the emergencies for you, whatever you need. And being available really, I think, allowed my clinic to skyrocket, so to speak.
Wow. You said it's been about a decade now?
A decade now. Finally hired my first associate a year ago. She just passed her first year. She was actually my
Congratulations.
Thank you. She was my first technician at my
Oh,
old
wow.
practice. Yeah. So I've known her for 12 years, and I think it was an easy transition just because I've known her for so long. And she went to med school, residency, and then ended up coming back to the LA area. And I told her to go get another job first, so they know what jobs are like out there. And finally, she decided the first two practices that she had wasn't for her, and she ended up joining me, and she made it a year. So
Wow.
it's been good.
That's awesome. The honest feedback from you about the early days of your practice is so welcome on this podcast. A lot of listeners may be young or not even in practice yet, or going into practice and thinking about the same things that you were thinking about then. And I think it's also important when someone shares their story so honestly to realize that perhaps things couldn't have been done better. Of course, you got 2020 hindsight now, but if you could go back and do it all over again, you think you'd follow a very similar trajectory, same difficulties? And what could you, obviously you always want to give advice to people so they don't make the same mistakes, but what could you have done in your own practice uh, better in the beginning?
I don't think I could have done anything, to be
Yeah.
honest. I mean, it is, you started your own, and it's a struggle. It's not, sugarcoat. Everybody sees me now because, I see 70 patients a day and I'm an associate. It's not like that. You really have to still, grind as an entrepreneur. You still have to grind. And I still continue to go see my primary care doctors, my optometrist referral base, because I tell people if you lose that connection with the primary care doctors or your referral base, there's another, so to speak, Omar or Elson they're setting up shop, across from the street from you, and they're going to visit that primary care doctor too. So they're drinking out of your sinkhole now, right? So
Yeah,
you got to go and tell them, hey, I'm still here.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, clearly you've got a lot of passion for having done it. And I think the biggest component to this is just earnest hard work and perseverance and wanting the success. Now you've taken that to the next level, which is to advisement, management, startup counseling, and you and some partners founded a independent practice partners, correct?
That's correct.
Tell me the
So
story behind that.
about 5 years ago, well, let me go back a little bit. I started another company, and then I stepped away from the day-to-day stuff, and that company kind of runs by itself now. And so I got kind of bored 5 years ago, and the four of the partners, they're all ophthalmologists. Four of us are anterior segment. One's a ACE office trained plastics and oculoplastic surgeon, and and we all started our practices from scratch. So we had the kind of the same kind of, you know, stories to tell. And so people started coming up to us and say, hey, how did you start your own practice? And then we decided, oh, we saw the kind of medicine, the change in medicine in the business model. And, a lot of people, especially in residency, they tell you you could never hang up your own shingles. You always had to join a group or a big group. And so we decided about 5 years ago to start this uh, company called Independent Practice Partners, IPP for short, and we help consult other doctors that want to come out on their own. And the practice is theirs. It's 100% theirs. They want to run it the way they want it, but we basically guide them how to start their own practices. Don't make the same mistakes that we made, basically. So they get to faster profitability, and work-life balance, so to speak.
And how has IPP been doing?
So we're just signed practice number 25 a couple days ago.
Congratulations. That's incredible.
Thank you. So, the proof is in the pudding. I think the first 2 years we had like 5 practices. The following years we had like 7 or 8. And then finally, I think last year we signed 12 or 13. I don't remember the exact dates, but coming out of COVID, obviously, we started right before COVID. So, that kind of tanked us a little bit. But after the last year, we really, people have started to come to us and trusted us because, we're physicians that did it, you know.
Yeah. How do the five of you take on 25 practices? Have you been feeling stretched thin, or has it been just, a lot of the same of what you've been doing?
Because we've done it before, it doesn't really feel that hard to get it going now. We have a great team now. We have, I think, 8 or 9 employees. We do A to Z consulting. We have a CPA in-house now that does all the profit loss reports for every practice. They'll tell you everything that you want to know about your practice, how you're doing. And all of us have different strengths. I think the 5 of us all have different strengths that allow us to become one great, company because we're able to kind of talk, and bounce ideas off each other. One's really great at, the day-to-day operations. One's really great at marketing. I'm more the strategic guy. I work in the background more. I don't do the day-to-day stuff, but I do visit a lot of the practices after they're opened to see flow, just because I do see, 50 to 70 a day within a 6.5 hour stretch. And I want to see if they're able to do that.
Wow. What's the model look like? What does a typical relationship with IPP look like?
So we basically, once we sign the contract, there's a retainer fee that we take on, and then our team gets the work of getting all the location scouting, getting the lease signed, getting all your financials, see if you need, loans from the bank. We have relationships with that. And our back office team really gets to work. And then we also take a percentage of their collections. It's usually a 4-year contract. If you're not doing well, we're not doing well, so to speak, because it's all collection based. So we want you to do well. And you're not held for 4 years. We do have buyout clauses that allow you to buy out the contract. Two of our practices that we started last year, they're buying out the contract because they're doing really, really well.
That's excellent. So IPP doesn't own any share of these practices and really is just there for advisement,
We do not.
counseling.
They own 100% of that practice.
That's wonderful. It's a great model, and taking your success and sharing that with others is really commendable. What do you think the future holds for IPP? Where do you go from here?
We're venturing into different specialties now. We're going into derm, plastics, pain. We want to go into dental. I think vertically we can go to these things just because I think the business side of medicine is pretty much the same. We've now have people that are in the specialties, are we call them our advisors basically. So our advisory board, and these are people that also started their own practices. that understand how to start a practice, but they are very good at, that specific specialty.
That's really incredible. What's your take on, obviously PE has been now around for a while. It feels like that conversation's just been going on and going on and going on. They keep gobbling up and they're still very active. What's your take on PE and their role in ophthalmology? And do you view yourself as the alternative to it, or you guys just coexist happily in the market?
It's a tough thing to, whether you like it or not, they're there. They're in derm, they're in ophtho, they're in plastics. They're entrepreneur, and starting an own practice takes a certain person to do it. There are people that are happily, they love to be in academics. Some people love to be in Kaiser. They don't want they want that 8 to 5 kind of work, and then that's it. And PE is kind of like that. You go, they pay you handsomely, but you're gonna work for it. They're looking to recoup their money that they put in to buy those practices, right? So it's really a work-life balance, I think. Like for me, I probably wouldn't be able to work at a place like that because they're going to tell me how many patients I have to see, and you have to work this many hours, this many days. Um, I have a great work-life balance. I work Monday, Thursdays from 9 to 5. I operate Tuesdays. I take off Wednesdays off, and then I go into the office from 9 to 12 on Fridays, and that's it. And my associate kind of has that same. She takes Fridays completely off. She works Monday through Thursday, and once she sees her patients, she can leave. It's not a you have to be here at 8 o'clock and you have to leave at 5. It's whenever she's done, and I think that's why we have a great relationship, because I'm not telling her you got to see how many patients you have to be here.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine most of your client practices got into it for the same mentality that both you and I got into, which is that freedom, that flexibility, autonomy. And
That's right.
definitely with PE practices, you lose a little bit of that, or a lot of bit of that. What does the future hold for Ellison Lai? Where do you go from here with your career?
I still love to operate. I think, I may not want to see that many patients, but I still love being in the operating room. You inspired me to do OBS, and I took on OBS 2 months ago and brought it into the office, and it's been great. And having that, being able to, schedule a patient right then and there, and we could do it 2 days later or that day if we have the lens, is a great opportunity. I don't have to call the surgery center and see if they have time. I could just take them back. And so thank you. Thank you for being one of the pioneers for this.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit more about that because that's been a hot topic as well. Just as PE was a hot topic for a long time. Now it's all about OBS, it seems like. What was what was the decision point when you were like, it's time, I just got to do this?
It was the same thing. I was at the surgery center, turnovers at certain surgery centers. I go to two, one's super fast, one's super slow. It just takes forever. And, after hearing about it and actually seeing it in the works, and then visiting a couple sites, I realized, I've been doing this for 10 years. Like, why can't I do this? I was lucky enough, I had the space for it. I already had kind of a carve out because the office that I'm in, they used to do LASIK and plastic surgery, so I had rooms already kind of already built out for it. I had to change a couple things, and then I took the plunge. I said, you know, Omar did it, all these other people did it. Why can't I do it?
Omar can do it, you could definitely do it.
No, but it's changed my thought process of this. When it first came out, I was like, there's no way in heck, no anesthesia, nothing. Like, there's no way. I need the anesthesiologist there. I have to have them on, sedated. But really, my associate and I now enjoy the OBS more than the actual surgery centers. I just feel like the patients do so much better now. And for some reason, the cornea looks so much clearer now. Like everything's just so much better from the pre-op to the post-op to the surgery. So I really do think this is the future, and they're right. This is a movement towards office-based surgery.
I totally agree. I mean, I'm a little biased here, but for sure. What challenges did you have in getting that up and running? Did you run into any, or was it smooth sailing?
I think the company that we both used is is top notch. You know, I kind of compare it to IPP. We build practices, they build OBSs, and and you have to have the knowledge. And I was so impressed by the first day when they did the trial run, when they brought their team in. I even went back to the IPP partners and said, this is the way. Like we should, the next ones we open, we should allocate the space out so the future clients can have OBS in their clinic, because I was super impressed, and I to this date I still am super impressed, and the money that I spent, every penny is so well worth it, you know. I'm
Yeah,
not on the advisory board. I'm not sponsored by them, but truly, as a paying customer, I thought it was well worth the money.
it's good to hear. I'm now 3 years deep into this, and I've had no complaints. It's been an incredible journey. Well, this has been a really great conversation, Austin. Any parting words of advice for our younger listeners who might be starting practice first couple years in, or going into practice before we wrap this up?
Just stay the course, everything will work out. Life is just, there's people coming into ophthalmology and people retiring out of ophthalmology. So we're always going to be needed. And don't worry if there's slow days, because there will be slow days, right? It's all relative, because if you see 50 patients a day and one day you see 30, you're going to feel like something's wrong because it's so slow now. It's the same as like if you saw 30 and then now you're seeing 15. It's all relative. So solo practice is still viable, especially in, our field of ophthalmology and dermatology. We're lucky enough to have the refractive part of the practices to really help us thrive in this environment. And what's better than, helping people see better, right?
Amen to that. I agree. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Light, for joining us today and talking about your journey into solo ophthalmology and how you're bringing it to more and more people. Kudos to you and IPP for what they do. I wish you continued success in your career. I also want to take a moment to thank our listeners. We appreciate each and every one of you. We can't do what we do without you. If you like our podcast, please share it with your friends and on social media. Also, don't forget to write a review on iTunes or Google Play. Your reviews will help other doctors and practice owners find us. Till we meet again, wishing you all an amazing week ahead.